Hello, this is Catherine Burke doing a lab video on the appendicular skeleton for Bio 235, Miss Vance's class. We're going to go over a checklist of structures provided and do our best to get an angle and zoom in on the bone we're talking about. So here we go. The appendicular skeleton consists of the pectoral girdle, the pelvic girdle, and then the upper extremities, which are the arms, and the lower extremities, which are the legs. We'll show those views a little bit better later. Starting with our shoulder girdle, or the pectoral girdle is what we call our shoulder, and it consists of a clavicle end and has a clavicle interiorly, and posteriorly makes up our scapula right here. The clavicle has the acromial end and the sternal end, and the scapula or shoulder blade is a triangular flat bone. On the scapula, let's see if we're zoomed in well on that. Get a little closer. There we go. So on our scapula, we are going to point out a few items, starting with the coronoid process. And the coronoid process, from an interior or posterior view, we'll do interior view of the coronoid process, which is right here. Next we have the suprascapular fossa, and that is best seen interiorly as well. That's the suprascapular fossa. Next is the glenoid cavity, shown laterally. The glenoid cavity articulates with the humerus bone, and it forms the shoulder joint. Posteriorly on our scapula is a spine. Right here, its posterior surface ends laterally at the enlarged triangular portion. The acromion, right here, so acromion, it articulates at the acromion end of the clavicle, which was right here. So these two guys make up the acromioclavicular joint. Next we have the supraspinous fossa, which is superior to the spine on this posterior side, and then the infraspinosa fossa. The sternoclavicular joint is right here on our sternum between the clavicles. So sternoclavicular joint. Next we're going to go to the arm, which is our humerus, the sole bone of the upper arm. And let's see if we have a good view. We're going to bring it back a little bit. Okie doke. So here we're going to go over the humerus. And let's see, the parts of the humerus we want to go over is the head, right up here. It's the proximal end of the humerus. Then we have the greater tubercle on the lateral side, and we have the lesser tubercle on the medial side of the humerus head. Midway down the shaft on the lateral side here of the humerus, right about this area, is the deltoid tuberosity. Just below that we have our medial and lateral epicondyles. These are muscle attachment sites. Next we have the coronoid fossa, and the coronoid fossa is this little divot right here, and showing interiorly, it corresponds with one of the lower arm parts called the ulna, right here, and it helps give full range of motion to the elbow to flex and extend, if you can see that joint flexing and extending. Next we have the trochlea, and the trochlea is right down in here. It is one of two condyles of the humerus. It's located at the distal end here, and it articulates posteriorly with the other lower, or the radius, the other lower arm bone. So, right here, it articulates. Next we're going to go to the forearm, which are these lower two arm bones. We have the ulna right here, which is slightly longer than our radius, and the ulna is primarily responsible for forming the elbow joint with our humerus. So again, if we turn it around, here is our ulna forming this joint with the humerus to create that elbow. Let's just make sure that's all in view. Zoom down and in a little bit. Okay, that's better. Where did we leave off? We're on the forearm. Next we have the olecranon. The olecranon is a prominent process at the proximal end, right here. That is our coronoid process. Next we have the styloid process, and the styloid process is at the medial distal end, right here, of the ulnar shaft, where ligaments run to the wrist. Next, in the radius, right here, it's thin at the proximal end and it widens at the distal end. The head right here is kind of flat, looks like the head of a nail. The radial tuberosity, let's see, the radial tuberosity, it's a little medial end right here. It's a little bump in the radius. It's at the proximal end, and it anchors the bicep muscles of the arm. The styloid process of the radius is just down here at the distal end, and the styloid process is another anchoring site for ligaments that run to the wrist. Next, we're going to go over the carpus, which is our wrist, which is made of 8 marble-sized little short bones. I'm going to try and zoom in on that. Okay. So coming back here, we have our carpus or wrist, and in the proximal row going lateral to medial, anatomical position lateral would be from the thumb. We have the scaphoid, lunate, triquetrum, and the pisiform. The distal row, or one row down here, we have the trapezium, the trapezoid, and the hamate. The bones that actually form the wrist joint are going to be the first 3 in that proximal row, the scaphoid, the lunate, and then the triquetrum. The bones that form the pollex, or also known as our thumb, is just the trapezium there in the distal row.